know that everybody loves it when I shoot videos with these old cameras. But I thought I'd shoot this with a period correct camera, considering what this is. It's an iMac, of course, and a fairly old one, because as you can see, this is actually a polycarbonate iMac. At first glance, it almost looks like an iMac G5, but it's not. This is an Intel iMac. This machine is both an early model and a late model all at the same time. What do I mean by that? Well, we'll get into that here in a second. You can see these machines are really quite nicely constructed. They're polycarbonate plastic. Has a pretty typical port layout. Headphone, line in, 3 USB ports, 2 FireWire 400, Ethernet, and this one actually has a display output port. I don't really feel like lifting the machine up to show the sticker because the sticker is on the bottom of the stand, but here is the spec listing for this particular model. Introduced in September of 2006. This is a 64-bit machine, so this actually has a Core 2 Duo in it, a T5600, clocked at 1.83 gigahertz. Most of these were Core Duos, which was a 32-bit CPU. My understanding is that this machine is basically a hybrid in that even though it does say it's a 64-bit architecture and it does have a 64-bit CPU, the EFI is still 32-bit, so you are pretty limited with what you can do with this. Yeah, right there, confirms it for me, now that I'm actually reading it. EFI architecture is 32-bit. Basically, it's one of the old Core Duo models with the Core 2 Duo CPU on it. See there, the interesting thing is the standard RAM, 512 meg or 1 gigabyte. But there was a version sold to educational institutions from the 7th, which was the discontinuation date that you saw up there, to April of 2009 that shipped with 1 gig. And that's actually the model that I've got. It's shipped with 1 gigabyte. Now, it doesn't have 1 gigabyte in it. It's actually got 2 gigabytes. Somebody has maxed it out, which was pretty nice. The other interesting thing about this machine, as you can see, it's got the Intel GMA 950 graphics, which a lot of people poo-pooed on when that first came out, because it wasn't quite as good as the AMD stuff, it was ATI at the time. But if we scroll up to the blurb, the technical blurb, you can see here the last sentence, 3 USB 2.0 ports, 2 FireWire 400, built-in Airport Extreme, gigabit Ethernet, actually pretty nice back in the day, as well as a mini DVI port, which is what that display thing that I showed you was, which supports an external display in extended desktop mode rather than just mirrored mode. So that's kind of nice, that this actually will allow you to hook up a second display. I believe prior models did not, or at least that's the implication of that particular blurb. Of course, it's a 17-inch screen with a 1440 by 900 resolution, which again, a lot of people poo-poo on these days, but that was pretty good for back then. 160 gig hard drive, which is what it still has. It's awfully tempting maybe to find an SSD for it, but I don't really care that much. You could actually buy a modem for this machine, which is kind of interesting. If you wanted to pay extra, I'd use dial-up. Would it come with a keyboard and a Mighty Mouse? So apparently Apple's been selling the Mighty Mouse for a lot longer than I thought, because that's the keyboard and mouse that I've got right here. I believe this is roughly what it would have shipped with. This is pretty dirty, but it does, at least in theory, still get the job done. And of course, here is a Mighty Mouse. You see here, kind of interesting, I forgot just how long into the Intel days Apple was still using Tiger. This would have shipped with 10.4. And I won't run anything newer than Lion. Of course, that's fine, because, at least in my opinion, anything later than 10.6, which is Snow Leopard, really just isn't worth dealing with anyway. If you wanted to run a newer operating system, you could run Windows 7 on this, although Personally, I think it's kind of weird still to be running Windows on a Mac, but you know, some people are into that kind of thing, and it's nice that you could actually do it. This would have sold originally for about $1,000 US. Although I believe, again, the model that I have here, which is the educational model, would have sold for $100 less. I think it actually sold for more in Canada. I think it was $10.99 as opposed to $9.99. But taking a look at this machine, you can actually see that it's in surprisingly good condition. There's not a whole lot of blemishes on it, which is really kind of amazing when you consider this came from an educational environment. Of course, there's the optical drive. I didn't even think to look if this had a combo drive or a super drive. If you're wondering where the air port goes, if you see there's a couple of screws right here. It would have gone in here. The two speakers are on the bottom of the machine. So the idea was that they directed sound at the desk and then out towards you. I guess for more bass or something. Not really 100% sure. This thing came to me. It was given to me by a viewer recently. And right now it's running 10.7, which is probably what it's going to run, even though I just finished saying I have no interest in macOS Lion. I think there's a lot of stupid things that they did with that operating system. But I'm going to reinstall the operating system, and I'm going to have to start with 10.6, since that's the disk that I happen to have. And we're going to do that here in this video. So we'll go ahead and I'll hit the power switch. Hold down the option key. There you can see the giant power LED there. So what we'll do here, it does have a recovery disc, but I don't know that I really care about that. I'll insert my DVD here. I don't really know how people used this kind of camera back in the day. It really runs through batteries like crazy. These are supposed to be brand new, but I don't know, maybe they're not. Rebooting. I don't know what kind of data is on the machine. I don't really care. I'm just going to erase it and start fresh. Alright, use English for the main language. I'm probably going to have to... macOS cannot be installed on this computer. Actually, I think it probably can. Alright, this is probably a grave mistake. I'm going to erase the disk. macOS extended journaled is fine. Erase. Erase. I'm sure that's going to fail. Okay, well that didn't fail. Let me quit out of the disk utility. Quit out of the installer. We'll reboot. At this point, the only thing it should be able to boot to is the CD. Well, that sucked. Even after that, was still not able to install macOS 10.6. So we're going to try 10.5. I assure you I read that very carefully. Something about this doesn't look right. There it is, customize. Printer drivers. Go in and install, well, let's just go ahead and install, basically, that's going to install everything. We'll install everything. Install, and we'll see if that works, which hopefully it does. We'll see how long that takes. It is 12:04 a.m. right now. Why am I not surprised that there's a problem? Well, there are ways to try this again. It's now 1:40 in the morning. But guess what? I managed to make it through something. I had to go find my single layer snow leopard disc. Single layer snow leopard? No, single layered leopard disc. The one that I had used with my PowerBook G4. I'm surprised that disc actually had Intel boot Intel boot code on it. Because I would have expected that one of the ways they'd make that smaller would have been to get rid of that. Looks like we got a little problem up here in the corner of this screen. Probably the best part of the installation process. Alright, we'll go through this. Do not transfer information. I don't have a thing to transfer from. Command Q to skip that. I'll enter in these details. Select a picture for this account. Now the iSight camera works. You'll see that there. Well, you can't really see. I mean, you can, but here's what I'm going to do. Take a snapshot. We'll do this. Actually flash the screen. Why not, eh? Why not? Alright. Well, I'm not in Cupertino, that's for sure. I actually got my city correct. Huh. Continue, set the date and time. 1:42 on the 11th. Good. Done. Enjoy your Apple computer. Okay. So now that that's done, I don't know, is it going to reboot again, or? Oh no, here we go. Alright, so I'm going to close this. I'm going to eject the installed DVD. Now, I should be connected to a network. Yes, connected. I have an IP address. Good. Okay. So I should be able to run the software update thingamajig now. And with any luck, here we go. EFI firmware update. Huh. Okay. We'll go ahead and we'll just install all the updates. I'm going to let it install the updates. Stupid camera keeps crashing. And then I'll try and install Snow Leopard. We'll see if it'll work. We are now updating the firmware. I'm sure that's going to go well. Okay, so EFI is up to date. Let's try Snow Leopard again. Alright, macOS install DVD. Install. Snow Leopard. Okay, hit continue. I agree to that, which I read very carefully. Oh, it just exited. Could I see it again? Okay, let's give it a second. Snow Leopard cannot be installed on this computer. Well, that's weird. Intel processor, an internal drive, at least 1 gig of RAM. I have 2, so that should be fine. That's strange. That's really weird why that won't install. I didn't shoot any video of it because it was particularly late. But this thing is in fact now running Snow Leopard 10.6. Some quick research seemed to suggest that the problem has to do with a firmware version update that this thing got at some point that lowered the minimum operating system version. Or maybe it just doesn't like my disk, I don't know, but that was really weird because I was able to install 10.5, but yet wasn't able to install 10.6 until I happened to find a 10.6.3 disk, which is what's installed now. So I'm going to go ahead and run updates. We'll update the software stack, and then we'll try and install Lion. Well, it was a pain to get onto the machine, but I now have the 10.7. Installer here. In theory. Okay, it added this install Mac OS X Lion thing. So we'll see what happens. I assure you I read that very carefully. There's only one disk to install to. Wow, really? That came from Apple's website. Ugh. What a piece of junk.
Speakers in great condition, sound great as you can tell. Keyboard in perfect condition. The mouse. Everything works.
This is 720p, by the way.
There is no airport card installed, so I have a network cable.
So I'm actually kind of surprised at how well that works. I was trying to talk about this web browser and the camera crashed. So I'm not sure exactly how much it actually ended up getting. But I've put this thing called Spiderweb on here. Unfortunately, it's not developed any longer. So it remains to be seen how long this is actually going to work for. But this isn't primarily supposed to be a web browsing machine anyway, so... Seems to work okay. I gave up on Lion. I don't really know what's going on with that, but I downloaded it from Apple's website and it said it was corrupted, so I guess there's some kind of major problem there, so... That's pretty much it. This is going to be on 10.6. I don't really care for 10.7 anyway, so... Pretty much good enough for me. Set everything up to my liking. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down and close the video. See disk burning here. It does not do DVD burning, which is probably why it identifies itself as a CD or W. There's the Ethernet. No fiber channel. Firewire 400. There's the GMA 950 with the built-in display. No hardware RAID. There's the 2 RAM sticks. No parallel SCSI. No PCI cards. I don't even know if this would even support installing any kind of PCI anything. No printers. No SAS. It's a Seagate hard drive, so I'm surprised it still works. Too old for Thunderbolt. USB. And the built-in airport Extreme 802.11g maximum. Alright, so that's pretty much it for that. Shut down the computer. Thank you for watching. And if you have any comments, feel free to leave them below. Don't you wish your PC shut down that fast? Which supports an external... What the heck?